Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. We have more gaming and PlayStation news, rumours and leaks to go over. Xbox president Sarah Bond recently made the headlines again when she called exclusive games antiquated, saying they're basically a thing of the past. It's a bold statement, but is it really true? Or is this just Microsoft's way of justifying its current position within the gaming marketplace? Because let's be honest, exclusives do matter. They matter to a lot of people. In fact, they've always been the lifeblood of console gaming. Think about it. For decades, exclusives have defined what makes each console unique. They've given players a reason to pick one platform over another. And when you've bought a PlayStation, you did it because you wanted to play games like God of War, Spider-Man, Gran Turismo, Ghost of Tsushima, Uncharted, or The Last of Us, or several other games. When you went with Nintendo, it was for Zelda, Mario, Pokemon, Donkey Kong, and so on. These weren't just games, they were reasons to belong to a community of gamers. They created brand loyalty, the kind of emotional connection that keeps people coming back generation after generation. Exclusives are what turns a piece of hardware into something special. They push studios to innovate, to build games that showcase what their systems can actually do. They drive competition not just between consoles, but between ideas, creativity, technology, and the internal studios themselves. Without exclusives, the console landscapes become, well, a lot less exciting really. Without exclusives, there is no reason to really pick one platform over another. What is the differentiator? Ask yourselves, why do you love gaming? And the answer for 99.9% of people who play games will always be because of the games. Gamers go where the games are, and quite rightly so. Sarah Bond points out that the biggest games in the world, Call of Duty, Minecraft, Fortnite, Roblox, they're all multi-platform. And yes, they dominate the charts and headlines because they sell on every single platform. But here's a key difference, right? Those games didn't build their platform. They built themselves over time and over several years. Games like Halo, Gears, Forza, Fable, they built Xbox and a community of gamers that buy into the Xbox ecosystem. Games like Uncharted, God of War, Killzone, Infamous, Final Fantasy, The Last of Us, all those types of games built PlayStation. And of course, games like Ratchet & Clank, Sly Cooper, even Metal Gear Solid and Grand Theft Auto were all heavily associated or exclusive to PlayStation. That's the difference between these multi-platform games and the exclusive games. The exclusive games will build your platform, grow your community, and grow your brand loyalty. Microsoft now says the future of gaming is about playing with anyone, anywhere, regardless of what device you own. Which, you know what, it actually sounds great on paper. It's also a very convenient narrative for a company that's been struggling to sell consoles at the same pace as its competitors. That is the simple fact. Microsoft's approach is simple. If they cannot compete with Nintendo and PlayStation, change the rules and move the goalposts. The truth is, guys, exclusives don't matter to Microsoft because they don't really care about selling Xbox consoles anymore, not like they used to. The hardware will be down to third-party partners who want to manufacture and then sell you different specs of Xbox branded PC builds, which you can then play on your TV. Microsoft's business model for gaming has changed. They've become a third-party publisher than a traditional console maker. And when your goal is to sell subscriptions through Game Pass or software across multiple platforms like PC, console, and even cloud, exclusivity becomes a limitation, not a strength. And Microsoft doesn't need you to buy an Xbox. They just need you to stay in their ecosystem. So this statement from Bond about exclusives being antiquated just fits their current narrative. But that's exactly why their message feels disconnected from what many players still value. Most gamers don't buy a console to play the same games they can play anywhere else. They buy it because they want to buy something unique, an experience they cannot get anywhere else. Exclusives gives consoles their identity. They make owning a console feel rewarding. And when people think about why they love PlayStation, they don't think of hardware specs or subscription services. Think about it, guys. Really think about it. Why do you love PlayStation? Most people will say it's because of games like Metal Gear Solid, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon, The Last of Us, Spider-Man, Bloodborne, Ghost of Tsushima, Uncharted, Siphon Filter, Tomb Raider, Resident Evil, GTA, Castlevania, Spyro, Killzone, Resistance, Jak and Daxter, Oddworld, Final Fantasy, Tekken, Dino Crisis, Resident Evil, I've already said, I'll say it again because it's a great game, Silent Hill, Devil May Cry, Shadow of the Colossus. Guys, the list is fucking endless. Those types of experiences define the brand. Those games and many more have been associated with PlayStation either through exclusivity or limited exclusivity over the years. Think about how you got into PlayStation and why. Without exclusives, consoles risk becoming just another box that plays the same game as every other bloody device. And when that happens, what's left to separate one from another? So yes, maybe the gaming world is changing. Maybe crossplay, cloud streaming, and platform sharing. Maybe that's the future, right? But exclusives, the games that define your console experience, the games that define a generation and make you proud to own your console, those will never truly be antiquated. They're what makes the industry competitive, and that is what pushes creativity forward. And they remind us why we fell in love with gaming in the first place. What do you guys think? Is Sarah Bond right? Are exclusive games antiquated? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Now, if you were on the fence about picking up a PlayStation 5, Sony is rumored to be doing a big discount on the PS5 in time for Black Friday. According to reliable sources like Deal Labs, Bill Kun, there's going to be a 1TB PlayStation 5 Slim bundled in with Fortnite content, exclusive skins, and some V-Bucks thrown in for $449.99. That's a full $100 off the usual price of the console by itself. Now sure, it might not sound like earth-shattering news, but considering the PlayStation 5 price has actually gone up since launch, it's a pretty welcome discount, especially if you haven't got a PlayStation 5. It's rumored to launch around November the 21st, right before the Black Friday madness kicks off. It's smart timing too. Sony knows people are out there hunting for deals, and this could be the perfect way to push a few more consoles into living rooms before the end of the year. But it does make you wonder, is $449.99 really the sweet spot for most gamers right now? Or is it still too pricey, especially when a new generation might be just around the corner? Let me know your thoughts down below. For me personally, I'm keeping an eye out and hoping for a big discount on the PSVR 2 before I pick up my first ever VR headset within the next month or two. So I'm kind of praying that the price drops a little bit. And on the subject of pricing, let's talk PlayStation 6, because even though it hasn't been announced yet, the rumors are already flying about where it may land in terms of retail pricing. A respected hardware leaker known as Kepler L2 dropped a pretty bold claim online. The PlayStation 6 might end up costing half as much as Microsoft's next generation Xbox console. That is going to be a big difference. Various reports and leaks estimate the next Xbox could land at around $1,200 to $1,500, while the PlayStation 6 might cost closer to $600 to $700. You might be wondering, why the hell is there such a big gap? Well, according to Kepler, the new Xbox could be pushing around 42% more silicon and 20% more memory and higher production costs overall. Basically, Microsoft seems to be going all in on a premium, very high-end console/PC build, while Sony might take a more balanced, consumer-friendly approach. And this also ties into something we've heard earlier this week, Xbox calling its next console a very premium, curated experience. Now, if leaks are to be believed, production could start around mid-2027 for both the Xbox and the PlayStation 6, with a launch expected later in 2027. From PlayStation's perspective, it's all part of a project known as Project Amethyst, a collaboration between Sony and AMD to develop the tech that will power the next generation of PlayStation. Even PlayStation 5's lead architect, Mark Cerny, hinted in a recent video that he's excited to bring new features to a future console. So yeah, the PlayStation 6 is coming, and price-wise, it looks like it's going to be less than the next generation Xbox, less than the current PlayStation 5 Pro, however more expensive than the PlayStation 5 at launch. And while we're talking about PlayStation, recently Ghost of Yotei, the sequel to Ghost of Tsushima, launched on PlayStation 5, and despite some online controversy, it's doing great. A few voices on social media, the usual lot really, tried to organize a boycott over the game's protagonist and some behind the scenes drama, but in the end, the numbers speak volumes for themselves. It debuted 4th on Circana's sales charts for September, both physical and digital, and that's pretty impressive, especially when you remember that Ghost of Tsushima launched during the pandemic to a much larger PlayStation 4 audience and at a cheaper price too. Sony's got to be happy with that. And meanwhile, PlayStation 5 sales themselves have also jumped up 10% compared to August, even after the recent price increase. It still couldn't top Nintendo's brand new Switch 2 in overall sales, but it's still holding strong. As for the rest of the charts, well, Borderlands 4 was the best-selling game of the month, Silent Hill F landed in 7th, and Final Fantasy Tactics made a return in 9th. And let's not forget Digimon Story hitting 13th, a nice win for fans of Japanese RPG. With a full list of the rankings, take a look at the link in the video description. So So yeah, September was a solid month for gaming across the board. And now let's move on, because imagine this for a second. You're sitting in front of your PlayStation 5 controller in hand. On the screen appears one of the most iconic names in Xbox gaming history, Halo. Sounds strange, right? For years, Halo has been the crown jewel of Xbox, the series that practically defined Microsoft's console identity. And now rumors are spreading like wildfire that the Halo PlayStation 5 game could be announced very, very soon. The same franchise that helped launch the original Xbox in 2001 might soon appear on Sony's platform, and not just any Halo title, but possibly a remake of Halo Combat Evolved, the game that started it all. So the rumors started to grow louder recently when reports surfaced that a major Halo announcement is expected during the Halo World Championship this week. Now, the timing of this report is important because the Halo developers have already confirmed that they'll be doing a special deep dive on October the 24th. Fans were told they'd be showcasing what the studio has been working on. That alone was enough to get the rumor mill going. People immediately started asking, could this be the long-rumored remake of Combat Evolved, or maybe something completely new? But then things got even more interesting. A well-known community source called Rebs Gaming pointed out that Grunt.api, an unofficial but very respected Halo fan group, has reconfirmed that the project being revealed is coming to PlayStation 5. Now, Grunt.api isn't an official Microsoft channel, but they've been involved in the Halo community for many years, building tools, sharing leaks, and helping fans stay connected with Halo. And when they speak, the gaming community, especially those connected with Halo, definitely listen. And according to Grunt, the upcoming Halo project is definitely planned for PS5, and what's interesting is that they didn't find any sign of a Nintendo Switch version, which is quite interesting. So if this information is accurate, we might actually be seeing Halo cross over to PlayStation for the very first time in history. And there have been ongoing rumors for months that Halo Combat Evolved is being rebuilt from the ground up, not just remastered like before, but completely remade using modern technology and design. And recent posts from the account Halo Leaks on X suggest that the new version of Combat Evolved will include updated gameplay mechanics, things like smoother controls, modern movement, and even a sprint feature which was not in the original game. Now, that might be controversial. For longtime Halo fans, it's a pretty big deal. Halo has always had a very specific look and feel, deliberate, tactical, and built around slower paced gunfights. Adding sprinting could completely change the flow of the game. Some players might love it, others might absolutely hate it. But it definitely shows that if this remake is real, the developers aren't just trying to copy and paste the old formula, they're actually trying to evolve the game for modern audiences. Back in September, Rebs Gaming also claimed that the Halo Combat Evolved remake could be launching in 2026, which lines up perfectly with the 25th anniversary of the franchise. That's a symbolic milestone, and it would make sense for Microsoft to celebrate by bringing Halo back in a huge way. We've already seen Microsoft release several of its once exclusive titles on other platforms. Games like Sea of Thieves, Hi-Fi Rush, Gears, and Forza have found their way to PlayStation. So Halo coming to PS5, well, I guess that was expected, right? It was always a case of when rather than if. Now, there is another layer to this story because Halo hasn't exactly had a smooth ride in recent years. Halo Infinite launched with strong reviews, but struggled to maintain momentum after release. Content delays, missing features, and a frustrated player base left the franchise in a bit of an identity crisis. But maybe Microsoft and 343 Industries see this as a chance to rebuild the brand, to reintroduce Halo to a fresh audience and remind people why it mattered in the first place. Of course, right now, none of this is officially confirmed by Xbox or Microsoft. These are still rumors, so always take this with a pinch of salt. But even so, the timing, the leaks, and all the reports seem to be pointing in the same direction. A big announcement is coming very, very soon. Now, previously I mentioned a huge milestone for Ghost of Yotei with its sales. Well, here's another big milestone for PlayStation. The PS5 has officially surpassed the PlayStation 3's lifetime sales in the United States. According to Circana analyst Matt Piscatella, the PlayStation 5 has now outsold the PS3 as of this September. For anyone who remembers, the PlayStation 3 had a very rough start. It was expensive, hard to develop for, and it couldn't compete with the Xbox 360 during the very early years of that console generation. But over time, it found its footing with some absolute solid games and sold around 87 million units worldwide, with around 23 million of those in the United States. So for the PlayStation 5 to already surpass that halfway through its lifespan, that's a pretty big deal. The question now is, how far can the PlayStation 5 go? Can the PlayStation 5 beat the PlayStation 4's incredible numbers, or will it slow down as we edge closer to the PlayStation 6 era? What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Now moving on to some trouble at Remedy Entertainment. Tero Vitala, the longtime CEO of Remedy Entertainment, has stepped down effective immediately. This comes just week after the studio issued a profit warning following disappointing results for their latest project, FBC Firebreak. Remedy made it clear that the decision was mutual between Vitala and the board. He'll stay on for a brief transition period, helping to hand things over to interim CEO Marcus Mackey, who also serves as the company's chairman. In a statement, Mackey thanked Vitala for his leadership since 2016 and wished him well for the future. Now, Remedy still has plenty going on here, which is why I'm looking at this with a microscope. They're working on the full remakes of Max Payne 1 and Max Payne 2, along with the highly anticipated sequel to Control. So while the leadership shakeup might raise a few eyebrows, it looks like the studio's pipeline is still going strong. Okay guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Drop your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you for watching, and as always, I will catch you on the next video.